Hey, it's Larry. Welcome to Stewarding the Wealth Transfer. Do you have a dream that God's given you to possess some land, something that's so big and challenging you just don't know if it really could be God? Would He ask you to do something that's so hard to do? I've had that happen in my own life a couple times, and it's worked out, but it doesn't work out in weeks or months or even years, sometimes not even decades. Today, I'm going to interview three different people, including Lauren Atkinson, about the dreams that they've got, the dreams that they're chasing to possess the land that they believe that God is calling them to. And I think that you're going to be able to relate to it. And Tracy and I have experienced death of a vision more than once, but don't quit. And watch as my friend Lenny, the farmer, Frank and Shannon, the cowboy pastor and wife, and Lauren Atkinson talk about their dreams that they're pursuing, and they feel that they're called to occupy the land that the giants possess. Check it out. I'm going to just describe you like this. Lenny has done very well in the farming and ranching business. And I think he could stretch. It wouldn't be comfortable, but he could do what God has told them to do. But I don't think the timing is right. I think Lauren is in the middle of that, where she has shared a big dream with me, and we've even strategized a little bit. And then Frank and Shannon have a dream to occupy new land, but it's really a dream for them. I mean, it's going to take the hand of God. And so there's three, and they've been waiting, I think, the longest. I don't know, between you and Lenny. And some pastors say that you shouldn't share your dreams, but I want to hear from each of you. I think that there are our own dreams, and then there are dreams that God has for us.
Yeah,
And we need to know the difference, and we need to know who and when to share them with. We may not all agree on this, but let's ask Lauren first. What's the difference between our dreams and God's dreams? And when do we share and when do we not?
I know this firsthand, and this actually happened to me very recently this year about a mistake I made of sharing a dream of God with somebody. So this is very, very important, and it's one of those things that either you can hear it from your mentors and trust what they're saying not to do it, or you can do it and then fail the test and then be burned and then have to, retake it. And that happened to me. I had a dream. I had this vision for this wedding venue, and I had a vision for this specific look, specific plantation, specific everything. I had it like all mapped out in my head, and I would get these images when I would pray. Well, I found it. I found it, and I shared it with a peer of mine who was very talented in design and very talented in art and I wanted this person's vision, right, to see if I could bring them along to help me. But I did it too soon because this person ended up bringing investors along behind my back and scooped in and bought a property that I had my eye on and had put a bid on. And it was taken right from underneath me because of greed. And I think, when we learn the difference between I have a dream, because this is what happened to Joseph. Joseph told his brothers prematurely, and they poo-pooed all over it, and then they went to inflict pain on him because they were jealous.
right.
And, if we share things too early, these things happen because it's just the fallen world that we live in. It's very
Yeah,
important. Like Larry, you were saying, timing. Timing is everything. And then once you settle on it and you're developing, you can let it out because now it's your domain and you have the authority.
Well, that's a pretty good answer. Lenny, what about you? I'm just going in the order around my Zoom screen. What do you see as the difference between your dreams and God dreams and sharing dreams?
well, I've always been a visionary, if I guess that's what I would call myself. I would see things in the future, and I would try to accomplish those things. I've always done that my whole life. And there would come a time in my life when I retired from the military and started the poultry business. I'd kind of finished that, and it's like the dreams quit. I stopped my vision quit. And so I would go on. I went on a hill over here by my house, and I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, where do I go from here? I don't have that vision anymore. Where do I go from here? And he told me to wait. So I waited a few years. I went back on that same hill, and I pray a lot. And I said, Lord, okay, time's moving on. I need to do something. And where do we go from here? And then I had a download. So he gave me I have a big vision. I've never had a download before, but he gave me a download that it's 30,000 foot view download, and I'm still waiting on the details. But so I'm going to work as hard as I can towards that vision that he's given me with the resources I have, and then also when the wealth does come, it will make it a whole lot easier to get where he wants me to be.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Frank, what about your vision, and what's the difference, Frank, between God's dreams and man's dreams, and when do you talk and when do you not about dreams?
Well, the difference between our personal dreams and the dreams that God gives us is our personal dreams are utterly laughable.
Mhm.
Jesus said that there's nothing impossible through God. And if God gives you that dream, as impossible as it may seem, it's going to happen. If you pursue it, it's going to happen. Lauren demonstrated there about giving sharing that vision too soon, and that's kind of how Shannon and I have been. We had this vision years and years ago, and we allowed the business end of things through man's ordination and so forth to bring it to a stop, and it just crushed us. But in the last few years, it just felt like it needed to happen, and it was going to happen. And I don't I, it I haven't shared it with anybody. We shared it with you, Larry, and there's like maybe one or two of our very most personal friends that are always very positive kind of people that we've shared it with. But as far as just talking about it to people on the go or whatever, we've not mentioned it to anybody because of exactly what Lauren was talking about.
Mhm.
And to know that all it takes is Satan. All he needs is just a little old crack to get a fingernail worked in there, and then he starts picking and he starts pulling, and it's kind of like a grandkid sitting on the chair with a little tag torn in the edge of the seam or something, and they keep picking at the stuffing, and before long you got a flat arm and a big gaping hole.
What is the kind of land that you guys have dreamed for, Shannon, and then you refine it, Frank?
Our our desires has been in the ministry for people that nobody else wants. We've had a lot of hardcore cowboys, drug addicts, you name it, we don't care. Those are the ones that we go for. That's the ones that God's calling us to. Everybody should be called to that. But the land is full of cattle. The land is full of horses that need to work the cattle. Everybody that lives on the property are ministers in themselves, that they bring these people in to us. It's a church, it's a ranch, it's a place of solitude, it's a place
Love
to
that.
run and pray, it's a place to come if you're hungry, it's a place to come for Jesus, and yeah, for miraculous healings, deliverances. And my place, my personal place, is on top of a horse. The first time I ever heard God's voice was on top of a horse on a 2-year-old young colt. And he told me, I was loping him out, hoping I was going to get bucked off. All of a sudden, I heard God say, stop. And I stopped. He goes, worship me. And I was stuck in religion thinking I had to be at church to worship God. I was in the middle of a meadow by myself on a young colt with my hands in the air, not being taught to do that, because you don't do that in certain churches, But that's where I reach people. That's when I'm around horses, when I'm around animals, when I'm around, put a tire on a truck, because I'm a woman. I had to. I was a single mom for a lot of years before God gave me him. But this place is homes
Mhm.
for people. to get up and get going, or start their own businesses, or like having a store that is not run by government, that it's homegrown beef, not just ours, but local people in the area. Teach women how to make soap, teach people how to can, teach people how to live off of good food and how to do it and how to produce it. Also, bringing them into the new financial system, which I'm trying to learn, thanks to Lauren. But the ranch is not just cattle and food and poultry and horses. It's about reaching people right there.
It's a true Acts church.
Yeah, a true
I
Acts
love
church.
that.
That's
True.
good. Yeah, Frank, tell us a little bit more. Give us paint a picture of the size that you dream about and just a few more functions, and then I want to hear these other guys' dreams.
Well, the word tells us that he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and that's going to be a pretty big place. 1,000 hills. That's a pretty good spread right there.
Well, you got to share a little bit with us, though. I'd like a hill or two.
We got an open door policy, even right here on our little 15 acres here at home. I mean, y'all are welcome to come anytime. We'll make a pallet out on the floor that you can sleep on, like we did.
Well, you better be careful, because I might drive my camper down there and I might just be there someday. But what would the amount of acres that you would like and dream buildings and acres?
It's gonna take a sizable piece of ground here in Northeast Texas. It's a general rule of thumb is 4 acres of pasture land for every cow calf pair. Other places we've worked on ranches in Arizona that was 120 acres per one cow and calf. So it the thing is, you got to get started first, so 500-600 acres is a good start, but I don't see it stopping there, because it's the ministry itself is going to grow in numbers. And when people realize that they can get everything they need from meat, eggs, milk, vegetables, and everything, even clothing or anything else, right here at the church, then it becomes that Acts church where people are bringing other stuff in, and it's growing. And you have people out here that's only got 15 or 20 head of cows that they need to sell calves, and they just as soon come to the church with them to go through the process of the church as they had to go to the market, and because they get market prices, but the people in the church know where their beef is coming from. But with this, that's the processing plant right there for the beef. As the church is growing the beef, then it's processed right there through his deal. It's another part of the ministry.
What are you dreaming about, Lenny, and why haven't you pulled the trigger? Because I think you're waiting for the timing of God. And so tell us about what you dream about.
Well, my dream is very similar to theirs, is on the cattle side. He's given me the dream to build businesses. For some reason, Statesboro, Georgia is a hub for addiction centers. And so I work with addiction centers, and we do Bible studies and try to mentor these guys to do life with Christ. And we're doing that. But a lot of times they need training. They need a job to go to once they get out of addiction centers. And so my dream, or what God has given me, is to expand my cattle business. I currently own 300 acres. It was my family land. My great grandfather. It's been in my family since the 1880s. Wow. But to expand by thousands of acres, because, and one negative of that is in our area is Hyundai is building. They're building mega plants for cars. Yeah. So the land prices are really going up. So to purchase 1,000 more acres is very expensive. But my location makes it even worse, as I'm in a corner of a interstate and a state highway. But God has given me the dream of building a mega building. It's a building in the corner of the interstate in 301, which I would have to purchase that piece of property also. But it would be a market center, along with beef processing, or a meat market there, along with the restaurant, but the processing center be real close. And use the guys that are coming off the addiction center to give them jobs. He's also put on my heart to do a bakery.
Right.
So those are some, and also a grain business, because we're so close to the ports of Savannah. We do not have a local grain facility that we can bring in off the ports and fill here. So those are just a few things that he's put on my mind to do. So mine is real similar to theirs,
Yes,
which is God works in well, you're in the middle of the country, so I guess I'll be the East Coast hub for that.
This is
Right.
so crazy hearing this from all you guys, because these are the images that are in all of my drawings and journals about the things I was trying to build. Like, we're all getting the same memo. And I think it's super interesting, that we're all there, but trying to get there in a different angle,
Right.
And I thought, well, okay, great. Since we're all getting this memo, I'm getting this memo. These are the images that's been branded in my mind when I pray. And because I don't have any inherited land, and I didn't, there's no farm around us that's affordable. I would think, okay, well, let's start off with something that's income producing, right? Let's go ahead and start off with something that's making money. Let's start with a wedding venue. Let's start with something that's already producing. But I also think sometimes that, maybe doing like what Lenny's already done, or what you guys are doing, just starting off, like you said, 4 acres per cattle per calf would probably be the easiest way to do it, and golf and consume a little bit at the time. Because what I'm finding is, when we're going into the secular world, because I've walked this twice now, trying to buy businesses that are already cash flowing with secular people, greed,
Yeah.
greed, dishonesty. Not a lot of things are disclosed until you get up to the very closing table and you're missing all of these funds. The EIN numbers are in debt, right? Like, you're seeing all of these issues and you're like, "Ooh, I'm going to pull back. Maybe that's not the way to go." But yes, wedding venues. And Larry, your public storage units, your apartment units, anything to get that money to come in to buy this vision that I think he's given the whole church. This Acts church scenario where we're self-sufficient. And I
Yes.
think that's the end goal. That's the end. No matter what it is that you're buying, the storage units, the apartment complexes, the wedding venues, whatever's cash flowing, the end goal is to get that church Acts thing going, so we're self-sufficient before his return. I think that's the memo.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm so excited. I had no idea that Lenny's was so close to Frank and Shannon's,
Yeah.
and I didn't know, Lauren, that yours was really overlapping. But what I'm so excited about is, I'm so excited that it was 20 years ago. I flew back to the East Coast. First, I went to one in Scottsdale, and then I went back. I think it was in Orlando, to an AHB. And then I started going to these secular events, and I thought, where's the church? This is the highest level of education. Literally, this is the best level of discipleship, because I know the Bible verses. I've been to seminary, but I don't know anything about business. Where's the church with business? How come the church isn't showing me how to be an entrepreneur? How come I'm banging my head, taking me so many decades to get to be a wise, business leader, when I think that now my theology is changing, and I think we're not only supposed to occupy, we're supposed to influence.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
God's given me a dream that we in the kingdom are the most wise, because we have honest friends who will take years off our learning schedule, because they'll invite us to their farm and say, "Hey, Lauren, if you have a dream, here's my operation. Here's what we do. Here's what we make." And when people come out to Washington, I'm telling you what I feel led to do, because I've been invited in this atmosphere where secular people, you sign non-disclosure agreements. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to say our word, and I'm going to show people how much I make off my storage units, and I'm going to show people how much I make off my apartments. Because if you come into the wealth transfer and you have millions of dollars and you want to make a decision, what would you do? But I can't believe all three of you guys. I mean, Lauren was telling me about horses and she was telling me about cows, and I can't believe you guys, but God, I believe, is speaking, and he's going to make people passionate to come and share, and for an affordable price. It costs money to learn things. Lauren frequently says, what's your verse that you say? I love it.
Buy for yourself wisdom. It's in Proverbs. Buy it.
Yeah.
Buy it and never sell it is what Proverbs says.
And what I learned is that I had to go and be with people, and it cost money and it took time, and I was so sharpened, when I got to be around people. So I'm excited about what you guys are talking about. Let me ask this question. Lauren will ask you, how is God speaking? Because yours is in the infancy stages, and how does how does Sean respond to these wild ideas?
They're wild because there's no one that's gone before us in our family, or anybody that can say, do it this way, do it that way, do it this way, do it that way. I totally relate to Lenny when he's saying, like, that's how I see. Like, I'm very a visionary person, and so I'll try to build what I see. But when I build what I see, either it doesn't work out, or maybe I've already built it, I'll sit around and it's almost like this oppressive, depressive feeling. Like, now what? What's the next vision? What's the next assignment? But Lenny's right. It's in that period of the waiting, where you're stretching and you're waiting for him for the next piece to your assignment, that he's wanting you to rest. And I think that's probably a hard thing too for any of us, is just rest. It's the hardest thing to do, is rest in him. Because we're all builders. We just want to build, 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 build. I think that's a characteristics I'm getting from most people in the end time wealth transfer community. We're very apostolistic. The more we persevere and pioneer and cut this new path, and you're pioneering, you're cutting a new path, it's labor intensive. The more wisdom we're gaining. And I think that has something to do with ruling and reigning with Christ. Because when he returns, we rule and reign with him. And how are we going to rule and reign with him when we don't know how? When we don't know how to cut through, pioneer, right? Like, make these massive diplomatic decisions, whether it be the land, the business, the cattle, all of these things. So yeah, it's definitely labor intensive and hard, but I think it's mandated. I think that's what we have to do. Like Lenny, Sean, very heavy in addiction work, because he was an addict for 17 years, went through drug rehab programs. Jensen Franklin Free Chapel put him through No Longer Bound years ago, like 10 years ago. And, after you've been in prison and you're a felon on paper, nobody wants to hire you. So, his only job at that time was to work in stocking the shelves at Publix, but he couldn't be seen. So they hired him for the night shift, right? From the time 12 o'clock at night till 3 or 4 when the trucks came in. So these kind of these, like you guys, Shannon, are so important.
Frank and Shannon, how did God speak to you, and how does it create tension or blessings as you work towards this dream together?
Him and I, we do well together. If we're together 24/7, we are strong. We separate, we're not. We got out of the ministry. He went to work. I went to work. And I didn't see him much. Then we spent 3 years together on a cow truck together, until at the point I realized that I'm not a man. I can't work like a man. I'm not built like a man.
That's right.
And I got pretty sick. I didn't call calf rope till almost too late. So I had to come home. And I've been pretty much home the last, 4 years? I worked 1 year while he built the house. But we have the same thoughts. We do well together. We're opposites.
Oh, yeah.
But through the last couple of years, Frank and I have been through a very tough time in our marriage. A very tough time, physical health. We've stepped into deliverance. We've stepped into a lot of different things. we've had to let go of the past, what's happened in our ministry. The spirit of offense had to go. The
Yes.
spirit of religion had to go.
Yes.
I mean, God has brought us from Baptist to full-blown fivefold. That's it. If there ain't if there isn't supernatural healings or supernatural deliverances, or if you don't know your prayer language, we're going to teach you. We really learned what God really is. We've always worked hard for what we had.
How did God speak to you about it, Frank? And what are you learning about your journey?
I think what we are living right now is a resurrection of a vision.
That's awesome.
It's coming back to life.
So good.
And it's through the whole thing, like Lauren teaches this cryptocurrency thing. You know, I get so lost in acronyms and everything, and the whole crypto language is acronyms, and I'm like ABCDEFG. I'm lost, you know. So Shannon she has a mindset for that kind of stuff. Shannon's a planner. She likes knowing what the next step is going to be and how she's going to do it. I'm a fly by the seat of my britches kind of guy. You know, throw something at me and I'll come up with a solution in
Me
just a
too.
blink
It's
of an
me.
eye. That's how I operate, Lauren. That's where I thrive at.
Me
Is those,
too.
You are my
Problem
insider
solving.
crypto.
It's a master
You're my
problem
insider.
solving skill. Yeah.
right, and I love it. You know, when things pop up and everybody's like, oh, it's not going to happen like we thought. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, look at it this way. Let's back up and look at the full picture. But I see God when God gave us this first vision, it was so supernatural. Uh, we was living in a 16-foot bumper pull camper trailer on a church parking lot at a Cowboy church parking lot because we were in between churches. I had been pastoring a Cowboy church here in Northeast Texas, seen some miraculous things done there through the Lord. I was Holy Ghost filled and really had no understanding of it. I just knew God told me to do this, so that's what we're going to do, and He rewarded that with great wondrous things. But I woke up one Sunday morning getting ready for service, and he told me, your time here is done. And
Wow.
I didn't know if I needed to start making funeral arrangements or what, because it just throwed me plumb off kilter. Uh, and I went in that morning and I told them I had to resign. And everybody tried to get me to stay until they could find a replacement pastor. And I said, the longer I stay here, the more out of God's will I'm going to be. He said it was done. Not that it's coming to closing, not that it's winding down, but it's done right now. It's over. I have to go. Uh, and in that course of that period for the next 3 months or so, we were kind of in limbo, and some other churches was wanting to start some Cowboy churches, and had talked to me about starting some churches, and uh, God led us to Weatherford, Texas. Um, and without them saying it was all a God thing brought us there, and they wanted to know a vision. They said, "What is your church going to look like?" I described to them it's a piece of property that's going to be of a sizable piece of ground that's going to be able to raise cattle and have big gardens and stuff, all
Yes.
producing for the people of the community
Yes.
and the church. And when you drive in the driveway is going to wind around this far, and the church is going to be over in the northwest corner of the property. The this denomination was real big on having parsonages for the pastor. I said the parsonage will be halfway up and off to one side, out of the way, and so forth. And when God directed Shannon on the computer to find this one piece of property, she just woke up one morning. God woke her up and said, "Go look on the computer." She's like, "God, we've been poring over this thing for days and days." She opens up the computer, and the first piece of property that pops up is in its last few days of being on the market, and we've not seen it before yet. And it was perfect. When we went out and looked at the place, everything that I had in the vision that I had to give to the church of what our church would look like, it was there.
Wow.
This was it. The only place to put the church was in the northwest corner of the property.
What's it like for you, and how did God speak to you, Lenny, with the dreams that you've continued to wait for?
My wife's name is Cassie, and this coming June we'll be married 39 years. She's the best helpmate I could have ever had. God could have blessed me with. Uh, but if you don't have the vision, it's hard to understand. And I'm not the best communicator in the world. And again, I have the 30,000 foot view. And she says, well, let's write the vision. The word says, let's write the vision. And so I've got some headlines of visions, but not a whole lot under. And I'm still waiting on that. And it's coming. And I know God will provide that to me. So another area, not just with spouses, like I say, she's all together with me. She just wants more information, and I said, well, when the Lord tells me, I will. She'll be the first one to know. Uh, but another part of this is like my small group at church. We meet on Friday evenings, and we eat and we go through the Word and pray. And a lot of these, since COVID, a lot of folks out of the Northeast have moved down south.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had people to move to Statesboro, Georgia, that God told them to move to Statesboro, Georgia. They were from Pennsylvania or New York or wherever they're from. And so we have a diverse small group with a lot of different talents that fit right into my vision. And God has showed me people in my small group and where they would fit into these certain places. So not only my wife, I have to tell my wife the vision, but also my small group, because I had a meeting with one of my guys the other day. He leads our small group, and I see him, and we sat down and talked, and I hadn't told him that before. And to communicate this before it all happens is God's working. So that's just an extra thing on top of your spouse, is that the people, I'm trying to bring people in slowly that I know are going to be a part of this without coming out and saying, hey, you start next week. But whenever God's timing is when it's going to happen. So that's kind of waiting on. But I'm looking so much forward to doing this. For a while, I kind of dreaded. I was kind of satisfied where I was at and didn't want to do anymore. But the Lord is starting to giving me the energy and the desire to do this now. So I'm really getting excited, and I'm waiting on the Lord. Is what I'm doing.
Waiting.
Lenny, you were made for this.
Yeah.
Shannon, Frank, you guys were made for this. And Lauren, you too. And there's so many people who are watching right now, and they know that there's land that they're called to possess, and they are happy that there are fellow strugglers who, have varying degrees of faith. But if people don't have faith, how can you please God? Without faith, it's impossible to please God. And I know from my own experience, for 15 years, I wanted to have a self-storage facility. And it took me that long to get it. But I dreamed it. I planned for it. I even went to training and conferences to learn how to manage it before I had one. And I think that's what you need to do. And I think that I could see that possibly even from this video that sometime we might schedule the time and we'll meet somewhere and maybe we'll have another Zoom call. But as more and more people have a similar vision to what you guys were going to be able to do it. I'm reminded of Caleb, and he waited for so long to possess the land that God called him. I was thinking about it. What's amazing about Caleb, when he finally got the okay, really from God, but the leaders of Israel, to go take the land that the giants are possessing, he was able to raise an army to go with him. And that was such a crucial part because he didn't run alone. And he made the crazy offer that he who takes the city will get my daughter as a prize, and she must have been a great prize because those men were motivated and they fought and they conquered that city. But I love the faith and the destiny he built in his daughter, because I don't know if you remember, but he gave her this essentially like waterfalls or a well or something, and she basically came back and said, Dad, I'm going to live with my new husband in this place. Can you give us the other wells as well, because we want to be there a long time, I think, is the thought behind it. And water, and for longevity, can we have even more? Dad, you taught me the destiny that I've waited for. Will you even prepare me better, because I share the destiny, Dad, that you have. And I think that you guys really do have a destiny, and I want to encourage people to possess the land that they've got. So Lauren, what are you learning along the way, and what encouraging words do you have for people who also are in pursuit of occupying the land the giants have?
Um, Perseverance. And, you say, yes, faith is a huge, huge key, but faith without the works behind it is dead. But even, oh my gosh, if I could just say one thing, even in the works, there's failure. And I cannot tell you how many times that I have failed, or someone has betrayed me or done me wrong. I have lost so much money in the pursuit of the visions the Lord has given me. But it's just money. I mean, appraisal fees, earnest fees, like inspection fees, and things just go belly up. But when you have a vision and you know what you're supposed to build, money's just money. You can always get more money, and the Lord brings in the money. So you don't stop and you don't give up. And I think that's what I want to encourage, and that's what I hear from all of you here today with me and Larry. I mean, we've had setbacks, we've had betrayals, we've had money stolen, but the vision is still there. It doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away because it hasn't been accomplished yet, and it will. Like you guys were saying. I mean, if the Lord put it there, he's going to foresee it. He's going to see it through, but you've just got to labor in it. Like Caleb, you just got to take it. Yeah, the righteous take it by force. It's not easy.
Right.
You build the wall with one hand and you fight with the other, and that's just how it is until he returns. So I just be encouraged. Just keep going.
Lenny, you go ahead. And what are you learning on this journey, and what encouragement do you have for fellow strugglers?
I like that word perseverance that Lauren said, but it's also a perseverance in your wait. If does that make sense? When you're trying to wait and you're not a good waiter,
Oh, wait.
but you need to persevere in your wait. That's what the Holy Spirit gave me right then. Uh, but to stay, if you're not doing this, people, to stay in your word, to stay in that word, stay in that secret place. You must get in that secret place every day
Mm-hmm.
and stay in that word, and the Lord will talk to you. He will tell you what he wants you to do, but we have to be obedient in doing that. Would be my encouragement would be to get in your word and get in the secret place and to stay in the Lord and wait on him.
What do you got for us, Frank? What's God teaching you? What did you learn on this journey, and what's your advice?
I keep coming back to Romans 4, uh, where Jesus told his disciples, I must do the works, or I must work the works of he who sent me, for night time is coming and no one will be able to work. I sense there's an urgency. Um, and I've always had a double portion of faith, and I know that somehow God's going to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to hold on to that promise, because he's not going to go back on his word. And I feel it in my deepest part of my heart that um, his children are not going to be beggars of bread, and
That's
we're going to
good.
be taken care of.
That's good. Shannon.
This past week, he is teaching me how to dance. I love to. I'm a feeler. I'm a very sensitive person. I can feel things off of people and horses spiritually, especially. I mean, going to stores, I've had to learn to cover myself because I can sense so much. But he says, you don't sense me. And when you're dancing in a waltz, you don't, it's so soft, it's so close, it's so personal. And he keeps on telling me, dance with me. So whatever move he leads me to, I need to follow.
Mm.
And just be that, can't even know this, to be that close to him, and he will lead us to where we need to be. He will show us who needs to be. He'll show us where we need to be. And we've already proven, I hope we have, that we have sold everything. We've being in cowboy culture is a very prideful culture. And Frank has got tack and saddles and bridles that are bits that are hard to come by, that are worth a lot of money. And he told me, he goes, get rid of your pride. So we sold everything. Things, I mean, the one bridle sitting behind here is the last one we've got left. But he said, give this to me. And we invested it. And he'll bring it back tenfold.
Yes.
But we had to get rid of that spirit of pride, of being, we want a ranch, we want horses. It's not about that at all.
That's good.
It's all about the kingdom and about, there's so many people, even in the Bible Belt we live in, there's everybody we talk to, they want Jesus. They want to be close to him. They
Right.
want to taste him. And they don't go to church because it's not there. We went through that.
Yeah.
And so this journey is really, I've had to step out on faith because I lack so much. And he's given it slowly back to me between healings, understandings, joy and peace beyond anything I could have experienced. And I know he's going to continue with this. And it's going to happen on this. Don't know how. Doesn't
I want to
matter.
tell you, I think it's going to happen too. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of Cinderella stories that the last chapter hasn't been written yet. It may look really dire, but without faith, Hebrews 11:6 says it's impossible to please God. So you guys have been amazing. I want to talk to you a little bit after, but thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm going to be praying for each of your dreams. And I think as a collective, we're going to be praying for other people because there's a lot of people who are called to go possess the lands that the giants are currently occupying. So thank you so much for your time today.